All right. So I wanted to make this video because I was asked a comment. I was asked a comment that said, "Do I consider Thomas Müller to be a Bayern legend?" And I think the answer to that is very obvious. Yes, I do consider him to be a Bayern legend. But I actually wanted to make this a broader topic because I made a tweet about this a long time ago. Well, at this point, it feels like a long time ago, but it really wasn't that long ago, like a month ago. In which I basically named where I would rank certain players, certain Bayern players as of right now, where I would rank them in terms of like the all-time Bayern legends. Now I don't have the list in front of me, but obviously the two biggest Bayern legends are obviously Franz Beckenbauer and Gerd Müller. Now, in whichever order, that's totally irrelevant. You could make the argument that Gerd Müller is a bigger legend than Franz Beckenbauer, but I think most people would consider Franz Beckenbauer to be a bigger legend than Gerd Müller. Again, you can make the argument however you want to spin it. There are good reasons for both. Gerd Müller, obviously, in my opinion, the greatest goal scorer of all time, breaking countless and countless and countless and countless of records. The bomber, absolutely fantastic player. Everyone knows his name. He is a household name, and basically, his goals ensured that we won 3 Champions Leagues in a row. But then you have Franz Beckenbauer as well, who Leeds fans will know him very, very well. Obviously, it helped us win these 3 Champions Leagues trophies in a row as well. But because of his role as well outside of as a player, I would consider Franz Beckenbauer to be higher. His role as a president, honorary president later on, just a fantastic role, just a fantastic character, and then obviously being a fantastic manager as well. But again, you can make the argument however you want to make it. That's completely up to you. Now, from the current group of Bayern players, there are. You see, I'm quite rigid when it comes to defining someone as a legend. For example, I don't consider the likes of. Who can I give an example for? I don't consider the likes of Gnabry, Coman, Thiago, Kimmich to be Bayern legends. For me, Bayern legends, it's not just about winning the Champions League, it's about defining an era. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. Oliver Kahn obviously won the Champions League once in 2001. Would I consider him a Bayern legend? Yes. Because he defined an era. He was there. He defined an era. Now the likes of again Kimmich, Gnabry, Coman, so on and so forth. Lewandowski. Lewandowski is a bit different because he's breaking records as well, and he's defining an era of his position. So he's a little bit different, but he's like just like pushing. And I would consider him a legend, but like one of the lower tier. We're tiering legends now. Lower tier legends, all right. Like probably at like spot 30 or so, right? But for me, what matters is not just being part or being a starter of being a Champions League winning side or a long, continuous Bundesliga and DFB Pokal winning side, so on and so forth. But you need to define an era. The best, Bayern is a club where if you win the Bundesliga, all right, cool, that's fantastic, that's great, but that doesn't make you a legend. If you win the DFB Pokal, that's great, that's fine, but it doesn't make you a legend. We've had plenty of players that have won numerous titles, but there are only a few that have won the biggest trophy and have played a significant amount of a part in that. But even then, there are plenty of players, even squad players that have won the Champions League with Bayern. Now, for example, I'll give you an example. Rafinha, would you consider him a Bayern legend? I necessarily wouldn't. But then the likes of Robin, I consider him a Bayern legend. And Ribery, especially Ribery, I would consider a Bayern legend. Like Ribery for me is probably one of the top in the top 10. Now, obviously, I'm not tiering legends, but like where would I rank Müller? Müller for me would be in the top 5. I want to put him in the top 5. Like 2000, like he's been in 4 at this point. 4 Champions League, finals, and 2010, 2012, 2013, and 2020. So he's been in plenty, and he's been a major part in 2012. Obviously, scoring a header against Chelsea before he was subbed off, and then it all went downwards. 2013, pivotal part in that whole season, in the whole treble, in that whole achievement, 2020 as well. So yeah, Müller for me is a top 5 Bayern legend, and then you couple it in with his fact with like his longevity. I think honestly, like if we get to another Champions League final, there is a good argument to be made for Müller to be top 3. Top 2, top 1, I don't think he's. No, I'm sorry. He'd have to win like another 2 to 3 Champions League for that to be the case. And it's not just about Champions League, obviously, because he's shown longevity, consistency, which is very, very important. But like you need to have the trophies to back that up. And I feel like Müller right now is top 5. You know, he's I think about 10 goals away, 10 assists away from. No, he's 10 goals. He had 200 assists. Was it 200 assists or 200 goals? I think he had 200 goals like 2 weeks ago. He hit 200 goals 2 weeks ago, which puts him like the 4th highest Bayern goal scorer ever. And I think he's like 7 assists away from getting. The numbers might be off. And I think he's like 7 assists away from being from having 200 assists or goals, even like whichever way it is. So he's gonna have 200 goals, 200 assists soon. By the end of this season, basically. And he's already in just outside the top 10 Champions League goal scorer of all time. I think he needs like 4 more or 5 more goals or something like that, and then he'll be in the top 10 all-time Champions League goal scorers. So like he is putting up crazy numbers for a player that isn't really all about numbers. You know, his game is really designed around his work ethic. His game is really designed around finding space or creating space for his teammates. And yeah, while he scores goals, obviously when he was younger, much more of a goal scorer than nowadays he's much more of an assist provider. You know, he's just one of those players that when you're in a big game, you basically need Müller, because Müller will show up. So kind of the point of this video is like, who of the current Bayern contingents would I actually consider a legend? Now, I think when you have two Champions Leagues, I think you're automatically considered a legend, right? Let me not play around there. You're automatically considered a legend. I think once you're in 2 Champions League finals for the club, which is kind of like why Lewandowski is a little bit iffy to me. But like once you're in 2 Champions League finals, Lewandowski has the stats to back it up. That's what I'm saying. He's like on the lower side of legends, like 30th basically. It's like that basically. But like for the current Bayern crop of players, Neuer, I'll consider a legend. Where would I place him on like the top 30? I think like the 30 best players are kind of like what I consider legends. I might have to make an actual list now, and I might have to, if you're interested in seeing that, let me know. But like in terms of like the top 30, where would I put the likes of Neuer? Probably at like 20-ish, maybe 15-ish. Yeah, I think 15-ish is where I would put Neuer. I give around that place. The reason for that is, you know, he's excellent, absolutely fantastic. Obviously now a captain as well, captain of a treble-winning side. He was part of the 2013 side. The 2013 treble as well, 2 trebles, and then in the 2012 top 10. Somewhere in the top 10. I'm not sure where exactly, but somewhere in the top 10, like at the lower end of top 10, so like places like 9 or like 10, 9 or 8, like roughly around that spot. Then you have Alaba. So Alaba wasn't. He was part of the 2012 squad, but he didn't play in the final. Got the red card against Real Madrid in the semi-final. So, you know, my favorite moment actually, since we talk about Alaba, my favorite moment from Alaba was like when he got the red card versus Real Madrid, and then he was like, you know what, screw this, and like he just made that run, just beats everyone on the left wing, crosses it, yeah, just like beats like 5 players on the left, just for pure pace, through pure power, through pure speed, through just like pure determination. It's like, yeah, you know what, screw this, and then cross the ball into Robin, and Robin was like, and just skies it. Game should have been over there against Real Madrid, but hey, doesn't matter. That's 2012. Doesn't matter. But like obviously, I didn't feature in the final. 2013 obviously was an instrumental part of that side. 2020 was an instrumental part in a different position for that side. I would consider Alaba a legend as well. Whereabouts would I consider him? Probably. probably at like number 20. Well, that's joyous. So basically the video cut off 10 minutes in. So I spoke for like another 20 minutes or so, defining where I would put these players, and the video just cut off and it didn't really gather the rest 20 minutes or so. So that's interesting. But the last thing I talked about in the last video was Alaba. Where would I consider him? Probably at like, the lower 20 years. That's basically what I would call it. And I think the 30 best players are legends. That's what I would consider. Also, I mentioned this in the lost files, I guess now. I will be making a legends tier list, a top 30 Bayern legends in order. So let me know about who you consider legends. But anyway, besides Alaba, we move on to Boateng. Boateng I would put in the upper 20s. Now that I actually know where I put them all, it's like I should be going through this much quicker. But Boateng I would put in like the upper 20s because, obviously very important in 2013, very important in 2020, despite being written off by many people. And then in 2012, you may say he was at fault, but he was still very important. Like he conceded the corner that ultimately led to Drogba scoring, and he then let Drogba go to score the goal as well. He was the one that was supposed to be marking him. But it's very easy to blame a player for something similar like that when we had the chance to really score 10 goals and just didn't. But like Boateng, I would put in like the upper 20s because like when he was during the years of like 2013, 2014, 2015, and some may say like the beginning half of 2016 as well, he was considered like best defender, best centre back, or top 3, and that holds weight. That holds weight that Alaba, for example, doesn't have. Where Alaba was considered like the best up-and-coming left-back, but then never really managed to really push for that. He never really managed to push to be the best in that position. So that's why I would consider Boateng higher. And because they both kind of fell off in the last few years, granted, but like Boateng just had a higher peak than Alaba. So that's kind of what I considered. Next up, Javi. Javi is for me very difficult to define. In the lost files, let's call it that, I was debating whether I put him at 30th spot, which is like, again, the top 30 are legends, so whether I put him like the lowest of legends or whether I just put him outside of it, because obviously he was very important for the 2013 side. Jupp Heynckes specifically said after the 2012 loss that like if Javi comes in, if Javi was there, we would have won the 2012 Champions League final. And then the board was like, okay, you know what, fair enough, we'll buy him, he'll be our most expensive player ever, but we'll do it. And then Javi came in and we won the Champions League, but like since then he hasn't really kicked off, so I don't know, really to no fault of his own, but also to kind of how football works, where if you're injured and you're constantly switching positions and you're not really that good in these multiple positions, then you're just really struggling. So like Javi, I would debate putting at 30th or maybe just outside. It's very difficult to really say. Obviously very important part back then, not so much nowadays unfortunately, but you might, because of how he tore things apart in 2013, there is an argument to be made, but I don't know whether I would really argue that. Until I sit down and actually make my legend tier list and actually know exactly who's who and where I put players where, because then I will actually go through it in detail. I will actually look at every single player in detail. Then you look at Thomas Müller. Thomas Müller for me is probably like top 5, top 7. And I think by the time his career is finished, I think he'll be top 4, top 3-ish. Müller, pivotal, won 2 trebles, was important in 2 trebles, the 2013 and 2020, and then obviously was part of the 2012, scored the winner, scored the goal, and then 2010, in his breakout season, essentially, he was still crucial. So like from that perspective, to me, the way I see it is like, yeah, Müller was important. He's been in 4 Champions League finals, and that holds weight. That holds crucial weight. For me, top 7 or top... You could make an argument for top 5. I think by the time he finishes his career, he'll definitely be top 5. But as of right now, I'd probably say top 7. And then you look at the likes of... because it's very difficult to actually define like where you would put Müller, because you look at some of our other players, such as the likes of Karl-Heinz Rummenigge. Where would you put him? Would you consider him a legend? Some people consider him a traitor. Not necessarily me. Yeah, too young. Too young to really feel the traitorous vibe. But obviously, considering what he's done on the pitch and considering what he's done off the pitch, would you consider him a legend? Paul Breitner. Well, with Karl Rummenigge, it's not so much would you consider him a legend, but rather where would you consider him on that legendary scale. Paul Breitner, where would you consider him? Sepp Maier, where would you consider him? You know, the likes of Uli Hoeneß, where would you consider him? You know, a lot of them also obviously outside of on the pitch. You know, they're doing fantastic. Oliver Kahn as well. I think, you know, I would consider him maybe top 10. Then again, would you top 10 for on the pitch, and then who knows, you know, by the time his off the pitch things are done and over with, he could be rising much higher. But would you consider him perhaps a bigger Bayern legend because of the team in 2011, the team in 2001 and 1999 not necessarily having the best players in each positions besides him, and the team winning that Champions League in 2001 due to pure determination, due to pure desire? Will you rank that higher than, say, the team of 2020 who were perhaps better individually, and like won it because of the individual brilliance as well? You know, which one would you rank higher? A team that wasn't sort of not necessarily the underdog, but a team that wasn't the best in the world and then fought against the better teams and won against the better teams through pure determination? Or would you rank the team that had better players and then just like kind of, you know, won the Champions League because they had the better players than their opponents? You know, which team would you rank higher? You know, it's very difficult to define. But like, again, I will be making a top 30 list. I don't want to make this video too long now because I don't want this second part to be gone as well now. So I will be making a top 30 list. So let me know who you would consider legends at Bayern. And let them. It can be unordered because I will be making an ordered tier list. But that will probably take about a few days time or so. But I will be seeing all of you, ladies and gentlemen, in the next one, everyone. This was just like the precursor, I guess, to my Legends tier list. This was supposed to be just a talk about like who of the current Bayern squad I would consider legends. Lewandowski I'd probably consider at like 29th place or 30th place. You know, I think he's doing fantastic. I think by the time he finishes his career at Bayern, I think he'll be in the top 20. But there are still a few more years to go for that. I think 2 or 3 more years to go for that. It's not so much about records, it's also about how crucial you are, and he has been very, very crucial. So like, I would consider him a Bayern legend, but I think we have been on a little, I don't want to say this, but like a little bit of a slippery slope recently, where like we were going downhill until like the last year, really, where like it seemed like, okay, we're now on an upward trajectory again, and it's, you could say Lewandowski is a bit unfortunate. He was in this time where we were on this downward slope, but now we're on this upward slope. So that's why I want to wait for like another 2 years or 3 years or so to see where I would put Lewandowski. Would you also, a question, would you consider Effenberg a legend? You know, Gladbach, Fiorentina, Bayern, Gladbach, Bayern. You know, would you consider, you know, he's had relatively short spells at Bayern, but he won the Champions League as a captain. Would you consider him a legend? I think most people would consider Lothar Matthäus a legend as well. You know, you have plenty of players that have done great, but it all depends on how you would define it. So I will be going through all of these stats through all of these players in a lot more detail to define who was the biggest legend, who is the biggest Bayern legend, who are the top 30, and I will be seeing all of you in the next one, everyone. Until then, have a nice day, peace out, and bye.